Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dial the Gate, episode 172 of the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. Thank you so much for joining me. We are privileged to welcome the return of Bonnie Bartlett Daniels for this episode. She's going to share some details about her newly released memoir, Middle of the Rainbow. I'll be sharing links on where you can get that. Before we get started, if you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, please click that like button. It makes a difference with YouTube and will help the show continue to grow its audience. And please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. As we have Bonnie live this episode, you can submit questions to her in the chat, and my moderators will get those over to me for the second half of the episode. I am really privileged to be here with my producer, Linda GateGabber Furey, and apparently Kat. Kat is good.
Amelia.
Very well. Amelia. And Bonnie Bartlett Daniels, of course, is returning. She played Linea in Stargate SG-1. We had her on last year, and we had such a good time together. It was like, you know what? We've got to have her back, especially when her book comes out. Bonnie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is a real treat. So your book's been out for, what is it now?
A month, I think.
A month. Early, what if what has the feedback been like? What has the reaction been like? Tell us about the response for it and what you've learned as a result of sharing this story.
Yes. Well, it's like, when you do a play or a movie or anything, you don't know what you've got until you have the audience and you get the response. And it's always not what you expect. So the early response to this was a whole big blow up about an open marriage. They all said, oh, this was an open marriage. I had never used that term in the book at all. I just told things as they happened, and as they related to my main theme, which was to kind of recover from the bad things that happened to you, particularly the things that had to do with men's power over women and their ability to do bad things to you when you couldn't do anything back. You couldn't speak up. You couldn't protest. You just had to let it happen. And it hurt you. And, I was fortunate to have a lot of therapy, because I worked and I made enough money to pay for it. So that helped me a lot. But anyway, that was surprising to me that everybody picked up on that so much, and they made a big thing about it. And I kept having to say, no, that's not what the book is about. That's not what the book is about. It's about those things happened and I put them in there. But no, our marriage was never what I would call an open marriage ever. It was, we were very young. We only got married because we wanted to have sex. And at that time, you couldn't do that. I mean, in the university that we went to, Northwestern, which is a wonderful school, but there, the head freshman dean of women called me in and said, we have seen you in the basement with this young man from Broadway from New York. And we wonder, what is he having a bad influence on you? Well, first of all, we were rehearsing, but that's all right. And then she said, should I call your parents? And I said, no. I didn't say it that way. I just said no, because I didn't do that in those days. No, ma'am. Is this a role that you're playing, Barbara Allen in Dark of the Moon? Is this having a bad effect on you? Because she's kind of a wild country girl. I said, no, it's wonderful. And she said, well, all right. And I got up and walked out. Inside, I'm thinking, how dare she interfere in my life,
And your work.
And my work. And that's gone. That's gone now. I mean, that would never happen today at Northwestern or anything. There was still a lot of very old-fashioned ideas, So the book is really meant to be a history in a way, of a life that has gone through a lot of bads and goods and, you know, ups and downs and all of this stuff, and ended up successfully, or as I say, realizing that I have lived in the middle of the rainbow. I have lived in the middle of the rainbow with all that has gone, because as many bads, there are goods, you know, and progress has been made by women. It's been made quite a bit now. The equality, it's still not there, but it's we're not the same, but we're equal. You know, that's the trick in life, I think, in every way. In other words, very, very famous people or powerful people, they are equal to everybody. They may not be the same. They may have more of this or that or the other thing, but they're only equal in their rights and their behavior and everything. They're just equal. They're not better. I learned that with some big superstars, a big superstar who was amazing performer, and she felt she had the right, because we had the same decorator for a while. She felt she had the right to have them give things to her or take things to her, because instead of paying more, doing more, because she was so successful, she felt she had the right, because she was who she was, that they should just give her things, or she could just take them, not return them, you know, things like that, which is a very strange thinking to me. To me, my Midwestern beliefs. And if I know that there have been actresses who have said, no, you do my hair because I'm whoever I am.
Yeah.
And it should be just the opposite. And it's, you've got more money than most people, so you pay me. In other words, I find that extraordinary thinking, that anybody would want it for free because I'm me. And what about you who don't have as much as that's crazy. But a lot of performers and stars do that.
They feel they've earned it, you know.
They feel they've earned
their
it.
status.
Yes, it's their status. Now, it's different. Like, there's no question about it. If you go into a restaurant and they give you a special table, that's different. But you pay for it.
Right, you're paying for it.
You're paying for it. That's all I'm saying. I know you're going to get a lot of special things, but if you don't take money from people that you haven't earned, that they need, you know, that sort of thing.
You don't then advance your station in spite of someone else.
That's right.
You know, you give back where you can when it's possible to.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
wow.
That's right. That's right.
Linda, what were some of your takeaways from the book, and what would you like to present to Bonnie with your reading of this? And I will follow you.
Well, first of all, I am so glad you told your story. You went through a lot with different men in your life, and
starting with my father, that was the most fun, because I was so young and you know, little girl. I was a little girl and I was treated always like a woman. You know, it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, and so many young women go through similar things. And I work with disadvantaged youth at the school that I'm at, and the statistics are appalling. They really are. And the fact that you've spoken out about this is very important. So thank you for writing this.
Yes, I know it happens a lot more than we talk about.
Yeah, and it needs to be talked about.
And in much more horrendous situations, much more horrendous.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
With the educated as well as the uneducated. Do you know what I mean? A lot of different things, but in the uneducated, but in the educated, it's very bad, very bad. It's not good.
No, unsurprised by what you had to say about men in the industry. And there was at one point where you were talking about on St. Elsewhere, where you had an idea for a storyline that you really wanted to pitch. And it was a very good one that they eventually ended up using, but you had to have your husband take the idea to them.
They wouldn't have listened to me.
Yeah. And it's
and they were all good men, but they wouldn't have listened to me. I mean, the women, I know Christina, who was on the show with me, presented something once, and it hurt her. It hurt her. And rather than follow a good story, which happened to include you, they would take something away from her. I mean, it really did happen.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you were terribly clever and got your idea there by
I was lucky because I was married to the lead on the show, who they would listen to.
Yeah, and I see that a lot all through your story, is that you have cleverly found the right route. And I took that away from the story too, that okay, if they're not hearing you, you've got to think about how else can you get your message to the right place so that it gets heard and acted upon.
You have to read the group that you're in and act accordingly based on the rules of that group.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Another part that
with Michael Landon, it was a little different, but because I don't know of anybody who did what I did and got away with it. And because he, at least he saw it, and he said he saw that I was right.
Michael Landon?
Yeah. The part where you
changed the whole scene. I changed the whole scene. And because Michael was kind of first, he was very hands-on, and he came in and he set up a scene, and he used the stand-ins to set up the scene. So he set up the whole scene with the lighting man, with the light, all the technical people, so that they could see what they had to light and so forth. And he set up the whole scene that way with the stand-ins. We didn't come in. And then he brought us all in, and he said, okay, you're going to do this. Yeah. And then you said, and I loved the scene. And it was a dramatic scene. It wasn't a comedy. It was a dramatic scene. And I said, I just went over quietly and I said, Michael, I'd like to show you how I think this should go. And he looked at me and he said, okay. He greatly respected me, and that helps. He really did. And so everybody went away, and I said, see, if he would be here and do it this way, and then we would talk, and then I did the whole scene physically.
Wow.
And so, and I knew it was right. It would work. And he just stood there a minute, and the cinematographer was right next to him. And he said, how long? And the cinematographer said, an hour or so. And time is money.
You're dealing with a penny pincher here. Some guys who sometimes apparently he would shoot the rehearsal to film in one take, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the cinematographer, about an hour maybe. So everybody went away, and they redid the whole scene. And then we came in, and then we did it. They relit it. They relit it. That's what takes the time, all the lighting and everything, because we're in different places. Mm-hmm. So they had to redo. And nobody ever said anything. I never said anything to him about it. He never said anything. We never spoke about it. But it was because he did respect me, and I could show him what I wanted in the scene. He gave it to me, and that was very unusual, very unusual. That was a really amazing thing. And with Ivan Reitman, the same way. Ivan Reitman, I said, no, twins. I said, no, I don't want to do it. And my agent said, you're crazy. And I said, well, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the part. There's nothing there. So he told Ivan, Bonnie is going to withdraw. She's not going to do it. And Ivan said, I want you to bring her in for lunch. Well, it's his lunch, not mine. And I want to talk to her. And Harry said, okay. And he said, I don't want you. I just want her. So I went in and he's having his lunch. And he said, why don't you like this part? I said, because it's nothing. It's not filled in any way. He said, well, why? What would you do? And I said, well, and I started at the beginning. And I said, at least there. Why is she there? What is she going to say? What is that about? Then I went through the whole thing with all these little tiny moments. And I said, she has to be this. She has to be doing this. She has to come in with something here. She has to say that. And I went through the whole thing, scene by scene and suggestion after suggestion. So finally he said, okay, Bonnie, I tell you what, I can't force you to do this part and to make this movie with me. But I will tell you one thing. I'm going to use every one of your suggestions. Wasn't that clever of him?
So why don't you come on board and get paid for the use of your ideas?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was so clever. And he was wonderful with me through the whole thing. And he was just a wonderful director, gone now. But, and it was a great show. It was a marvelous movie. And I was wrong about that. I didn't know who Schwarzenegger was.
Right.
I didn't know. I knew Danny, but I didn't know Schwarzenegger. And so, and I love both of them. They're terrific guys. And I've had been so lucky because I've worked with so many really good, wonderful people in Hollywood. I mean, really have a lot of, seldom has there been a bad situation. Seldom. I'm lucky.
I noticed as the story went on, from my own personal perspective, there was more jumping around earlier in the book, and this is what I took away from it. As you wrote, you appeared visibly to become a better writer.
Really?
As you proceeded through the story, did you feel
I did that too.
Did you feel you found your voice?
I'm not a natural writer. I had written a script of the section about the adoption and the death of my baby. I had written a script, a screenplay about that years ago, but it was a screenplay.
Yeah.
And so when I came back to writing more, the book and the Me Too and all of that stuff, I took that screenplay, and there's 2 chapters there that I made them a narrative. So that section, it is hard to put it all together. That section was all written earlier, but as a screenplay, and then I made it a narrative because that was such an important part of my life, and I had to put that in there. And I had written it exactly as it happened.
Wow.
And that was when I was 30. It happened, I was in my mid-30s when I lost the baby. I was in my mid-40s when I wrote that section as a screenplay. And then all the rest coming, when I went back to it, was a struggle to write and to have to go back all the time and say, how did you feel? I had a guy, that wonderful guy who helped me to just, I insisted it be my words, my writing, but he would say, but what were you thinking then? How did it feel? How did it make you feel? So he made me go deeper.
Encouraged you to express yourself.
Yeah.
And very much so. He said, just write it all out. I said, how do I write this about? He said, start at the beginning with your father and just write it all out, all the way through. And then, of course, we had to figure out where to put things in the book. That was complicated. That was hard, because it was kind of disjointed. We did eliminate one chapter that he felt I was not smart enough to write. And that was the one on woke. And I had everything in there, things that he said, like he was shocked when he knew that as a little girl I loved minstrels. You know, I never blackfaced, but I would always, you know, the things we did when I was a little girl.
But it
And
was part of the culture. I mean, my grandmother, her father did some vaudeville.
yes,
She talked about that, about going to minstrel shows as a girl and how
Oh, it
that
was-
was great entertainment.
yes.
And society saw nothing wrong with it at the time. I mean,
No,
we look
we
back and
didn't.
we're
We
kind of
didn't
appalled,
agree.
but at the time it was accepted.
Totally accepted.
This desire
Jack Benny's
to
Rochester. If you think back, Jack Benny was one of our favorite shows. He was a great, my husband adored him. He was a great comedian. And Bill will do stuff. Then you think back, but Rochester was very big in that show. And the fact that they were, I mean, for them, it was great that they all got work and everything. But all of that work, most of it, based on humor that
Today we
look at them as different.
the desire to look at the past solely with modern eyes has always been, in my opinion, intellectually dishonest, because you know, we communicate more now than we did about smaller issues, because we have the benefit of time to look at this and say, okay, was this really a good thing? And I think that's something that we often forget, and because it's so easy to go back and pick on something from 50, 60 years ago and say, aren't they stupid? Well, yeah. What do you think they're going to think about us now, 50 years from now? So.
Right, exactly. And this gentleman who I told you about, Lauren, who helped me with so much of it, I took his advice on that. He said, I just think that you're not writing that chapter is to what you say. It's old. And we know all that now. You don't have to tell us. And I don't want to make it look like that I was part of something terrible. I mean, I was part of the culture. As you say, we did awful things. Now I know that. You know, just like now we know that all the things men do, because they have a little power and they can harass women and assault women and abuse women. We know that now, but we didn't then. We didn't know that we could speak up and say, no. When I spoke up about my father, my mother said, oh, he's just being affectionate. So that makes me stupid, right? That makes me, oh, something wrong with me. It's always, there's something wrong with me. And that's what we do. And that's very debilitating. That doesn't strengthen us. Oh, something wrong with me. I'm the bad one. I'm the sick one. I'm the twisted one.
And when you hear it from another woman, that's even worse somehow. You know, because it's like another woman is telling you your perception of this is completely wrong.
Yes.
Like it must really be true then.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
I'm bad. He's okay, but I'm bad.
Was there any the one question that I really wanted to ask was, in conversations with Bill about this content, was there at any point any discussion between the two of you about, do you really want to release this part? Do you think this is, I mean, this is about us, you know, why do you want to release this to the world? Was there any point, anything like that? You know,
no, not from
there wasn't.
him. But of course, if he had been 60, yes,
okay.
I couldn't have done it then. But we are so close now, incredibly close, and we are so dependent on each other, unbelievably so, and we're very affectionate and warm and so forth. And he feels like all of that. Oh, Bonnie's book, yes, well, okay, and he's read it, but he didn't say anything. He just said, okay, you know, probably doesn't even remember part of it, because Bill doesn't have the memory that I have. You know, he's 95.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice, I mean, his book is all about stories, and it's not personal. It's mostly about stories. He'll talk about politics maybe or something like that, or he'll talk, but he doesn't talk about feelings. He doesn't talk about it in life. He doesn't talk about his feelings in life. Or even he'll say, I'm not in touch with my body. He's very strong. He's lucky. He's so good. 95, he's still strong.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll say, how does that feel? And he has to think about it. He doesn't, I don't know, where, he's just different than I am. I'm in touch with everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Know what's going on.
You bring up affection in the book, how it was something that you felt was lacking between the two of you. Is it something that you had to just work at over the years to be more conscious of between the two of you?
I think so. Yeah, certainly for me.
Yeah.
Certainly for me, I had to consciously find that I would watch other people and why don't I do that? Why don't I throw my arms around my girlfriends and hug them? We didn't do that. We just didn't do that. We weren't, it's Midwestern, small town. We just weren't, Strasberg always said that you had to have a little ethnic blood in you to be a good actor. He always said that, and I said, where is that? Like, because because they're more expressive. Because what you have to have as an actor is to be expressive. So you have to find your way into that, and you've got to get into that expression, whatever it is. And yes, Est was a very good thing for me to realize some of my lacks, if you will, and as well as positives. It was good thing, Est, for me. And any kind of analysis, any kind of philosophy or that kind of thing, exploring things like that. And that's where I saw a marvelous film on sex, was at Est. It was very revealing to me. Because, what they show is not the greatest. They never show you good sex in the movies. They all just show you all these, violent kind of, even the attractions are violent. They never show you a really kind of wonderful, warm sex.
Yeah. Love making, actual love making.
Love making.
It's
yes,
all just, we're moving the plot along. So.
Yeah.
We have an audience member, Lock Watcher, wanted to know, with Linea or a one-off character like your role in, for instance, Golden Girls, did you approach those characters differently for one-off roles compared to like your recurring role and as Ellen in St. Elsewhere, or was it all the same in terms of your approach to sticking the landing? My approach was
the same. St. Elsewhere was different because Bill pulled me into it. It was a tiny part, and he saw a couple of jokes because he had bragged. He loved the character, bragging about what he had done all the time, and bragging about how he got his wife to stop smoking. He was this guy, and he told everybody that. And then, of course, the minute he leaves to go to the bathroom or something, I pull out a cigarette and smoke a cigarette.
That's right.
It made a couple of good laughs. That was all I had to do was in that first show. And they saw, even in that little bit, that Bill and I were funny together, because we can be funny together. And so they started writing, and then they got more and more into us and writing. It was good for the show. It was a good couple. It was a good out of the hospital stuff. And we could do it like falling off a log. Because we had worked together, we'd studied together, we'd lived together, we'd have everything. So it was really easy. You didn't have to prepare. Yes, so in that, no, there was no preparation at all. But except technically the cigarette, I don't smoke, so he had to teach me.
There's a trick to it to make it look believable.
Yeah, he's very technically correct. He taught me how to take the pack and do to get it shaken out, and taught me how to smoke like a man. So to get the joke, because that's all he cares about is the joke. So anyway, that was, but any other role that wasn't like me, yes, you have to look at it and prepare it and figure out what it is. It's the same kind of preparation that you would do for the theater, as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it is when it's quick, you rely on your instincts. You rely on your instincts when it's so quick.
Wow.
Do you still
You
use?
do try to accustom yourself. Yeah. Accustom yourself to the set.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. That even a little bit accustom yourself to the set and the people as much as you can. You only have maybe a half an hour.
Yeah.
Do you still use a lot of what you learned in classes with Lee
Oh,
Strasberg?
Oh yeah, he was amazing. He was can be very destructive. He could be a very destructive man, but a teacher. But oh yeah, there was nobody that I've ever seen better at spotting in a young person or what was holding them back.
Wow.
That's
not easy.
No, that was his genius. He wasn't a very good director, really, but that was his genius as to being able to instinctively help a person to be themselves and to know how to work, where to go, what to use, what to go. And he always said, listen, if you've got it all there, like we would say something about English actors or something, because they don't do that. And he said they do it. It's just that they know how to do it. Wow. It's just there, and they don't need to study it, but they go deeper and deeper and deeper as they get older. John Gielgud, as a young man, was a phony. He was great Shakespearean. He did the poetry Shakespeare, like brilliant, all of that our people don't do that well at all. But as he got older and older and older, he became more himself. Mm-hmm. And it was him. And those older parts, just amazing, because it was just him. And it was method acting, if you will, only he didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bonnie, we know we have to go, but if you don't mind, I'd like Linda and me to continue to stick around to discuss the book. There's whole sections that we want to go over, but I know you have to leave.
Okay.
But
all right.
Your time is up. I'm assuming.
No. We can go on.
Can we? There's so much more that I want to get. How about this? How about you tell us when you have to go, and then we'll just wrap it up then, and then she and I will continue on. Does that work?
Okay. Now, is this the same show, or do you just?
Yeah, this is the same show.
Oh, same show. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. This passage with studying with Lee. Do not be afraid to tell us when, guys. I got to get out of here. Is that okay?
Okay.
You write, in the early years of studying with Lee in his private classes, many of us were afraid of his disdain and disapproval. He could be incredibly cold. He had a way of terrorizing an actor who wasn't delivering. Some of us would lie awake all night with anxiety before we had to present a scene in class. And when the scene we had prepared was over, the feeling of relief was so overwhelming it eclipsed our concern about the quality of the work.
Yes.
I found this passage.
Laura said that's one of the best things I wrote.
It's just crazy. I don't think there's anyone who can't relate to coming across a tyrant in their life who has control of either a teacher, like in grade school even, or in college, where that doesn't affect you. And it's like, as you said here, like fun would have been surely some part of it, but he didn't encourage that. You weren't going to a fun house. You were going into a dark place where all you could do was hope to get out alive.
That's right. No, Lauren loved that, because Lauren was not a person who particularly appreciated Strasberg's ways of working. And we talked a lot about it, and I got him to understand it. See, for somebody like Bill, who went in there just because I was there, he went in, he would fight with Lee. They would yell at each other, and I'm crying because the first lecture that I heard from Lee, the first class, I didn't know who he was. I went in completely not knowing about the group theater or him, and we should have at Northwestern, but we didn't. And so I went in completely, and not, myself and everything. The minute I heard him lecture and talk, I thought, oh my God, I got to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this. I want to be up there myself and not copying or imitating. I want to be there. I want to do that. And so the minute you're into that, he becomes like such an authority. You just have to be there with him and listen and, do it. And he could be, he was egomaniac. And so he could be very cold, not with stars. He was a star fucker, if you will. I mean, he was not with the stars, but I was in the private classes and we were all, nothing. We were nobody. And every once in a while he would pick out mostly a guy who he could see would be a big star, a George Papard. He would pick out somebody like that and he would encourage them and to go work, and that sort of thing. Now, when Bill came along, Bill had worked on a lot of technique. He worked on a lot of comic technique that he had learned on Broadway from Howard Lindsay. He worked on a lot. He had performed as a song and dance man. So he was out there, doing all this stuff. And so he mentioned one time, Bill said, yeah, but there's no pace. And Lee said, pace. What are you talking about? We're not talking about pace. That's a director's problem. And they would yell back and forth. And I would be hysterical. I would be hysterical. Nobody had the guts to do that. And when we got to friends, we were friends with them at their house and everything. Lee, who loved music the same way Bill loved music, they would go into a room and listen to records and various performances and compare them and stuff like that. Bill had no fear of him at all. No fear. And the two of them, and when Bill got up to do a song thing, there was a song exercise, and Lee said afterwards, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do with you. You're so slick. You're so clever. You're so slick. And I don't know who you are. So I don't know how can I cast you if I don't know who you are? Oh. And that got through to Bill because he was a tennis anyone guy. So eventually, by the time Bill did the Zoo Story, Edward Albee's first play, Lee came back and he said, oh, good work. And he did, even though Bill didn't agree with him many times, and he certainly didn't agree with him as a director, but it helped him. It helped open Bill up, and he never got that slick stuff again. Except maybe once in a while when you're tired. But he just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And did all his work was wonderful after that.
Linda, go ahead.
No, so he wouldn't say he was a Strasberg. All he would say is Strasberg helped me a lot. Wow. That's what he would say. And that's what Lee could do.
Linda and I were talking about the House Un-American Activities Committee last night, and Elia Kazan naming names. Linda, can you explore a little bit of that? Because you had some.
What I know of that is we got into New York just in time. I mean, it was too late to get involved and get into trouble, or I would have been in trouble. I would have. But I would never join no, these people actually did join the Communist Party. No, I never would have done that. But I would have been friends of, and Paula had joined the Communist Party.
Lee's wife.
Yeah. Lee was never joined the party. Lee would never do. He'd never do that. But Sheeta and Kazan had too. And a lot of people, Jerry Robbins had, a lot of very famous people were members of the Communist Party because it was a good thing to sign on to. Oh yeah, this is a good thing. It was considered, avant-garde or whatever you want for playwrights and people. They were really members. Now, when I remember that Lee came to class one day and he sat down, and it was the day that Kazan's thing was in the.
Oh,
Oops.
I think we may have lost Bonnie.
Oops.
Maybe she'll come back.
Okay.
I think our time ran out with her. It's like putting quarters into the machine. I want to hear her. I want to hear more of what she has to say, though.
Me too. Particularly this story.
I know
in the book and doesn't go into deeper detail, and I really want to.
This is a big moment in
that he had taught.
Oh, we lost her. Oh, are you there? She is.
Yeah, are you there?
Yes, we are here.
Oh. So anyway, I'm in the middle of that story. It came back. We went out. They came back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Right.
That was weird.
So anyway, he came into the class and he said, I'm sure you know what happened today. He said, I just want you to know that Gadge came over. That was his name, Gadge. They called him Gadget, Kazan. Came over to our house last night and told us what he was going to do, and told Paula, and we agreed that it was worth it for him to continue to make movies.
Wow.
And so they both knew it was going to happen. And Paula didn't have a big career. She had nothing to lose. He did, Kazan. We don't know for sure, but it looks like he probably could not have made a couple of great movies if he hadn't done that.
Wow.
Still in all, there were other people too he named. There were other people besides Paula. So anybody that, if you name people who had a career, you just about destroyed them. And he did that. He did that. Jerry Robbins did that. Yeah. In order to work. So in other words, you're destroying somebody in order to work. And the thing is that in order to save yourself, the thing is that they already knew. So you weren't the first person to name.
Okay.
They already knew the people.
Yeah.
It was just a terrible situation.
You're playing ball.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Linda?
No, so was Paula, she was teaching at the actors?
She was an assistant. She kind of was Lee's assistant. And she wasn't anywhere near the teacher he was. But she did go on to work with Marilyn. And I don't know how, I was not privy to their relationship that much, except socially.
Okay.
So I don't know if she's got a terrible reputation. Terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So she did still manage to have something of a career because she wasn't a personality who was in front of the camera or a big name like Kazan.
Right.
I was wondering about that because I mean she seems to me to be, like, let's handpick a few sacrificial lambs to get the committee to look the other way. And I'm like, did he deliberately pick people who weren't going to be too affected by it?
No.
Was there that much thought even to it?
No thought, just anybody. Then what they did was so-and-so, and yes, was so-and-so, if you spoke, anybody, I had a very good friend who, yes, his couple of people, very good friend, who were destroyed in terms of making any kind of film. And they had big careers. Mm-hmm. Stanley Prager was the husband of a friend of mine. His career was destroyed. Howard De Silva. His Hollywood career was destroyed. All his money, gone. Everything went bye-bye because of that. Yes.
I guess it amazes and horrifies me so much because so much of the acting community is Jewish. And in the wake of World War II, here we come up with yet another situation where we're looking for scapegoats and we're turning people in because they're a particular thing. And it's just like, wow,
Mortifying.
this is a minute later and we're doing the same
yeah.
thing again.
Yeah. No, they were communism. They were terrified. Nixon's whole career was built on anti-communism.
Yeah.
He was a bad guy. And God knows, I don't know who the people are today. I mean, I don't know what they're for or not for. They're just for power. Power, right?
Right.
So, okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Bonnie. This was a privilege to have you back and to have you share your story.
You've been great. You've been great, and you're serious, and it's good.
Thank you so much for your time. You be well and take care of yourselves, okay? All my best to Bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, like that blue thing.
Go ahead.
Now.
Come on. Click
There.
right there.
Okay. There.
Okay.
All right. What a remarkable human being and a remarkable story. Let me reconfigure this, folks, so that Linda and I can talk. Give me just a moment on this. Linda, what do you think?
It's just such a powerful story. I mean, it, because Bonnie has had the privilege of living to, be older than
An
a lot of us.
unusual length of life.
Yeah, she had an incredibly long career, and I mean, as recently as a couple of years ago, was still in something, right? She has done some recent guest spots in various things, and I don't think she has a plan of quitting.
I don't think so. Not based on the conversation with her.
But her story spans just such a great swath of modern acting that I was just finding it so fascinating to read. She's got both her early career in theater that she talks about, and studying with Strasberg, who's just absolutely legendary in the theater community, both as a notorious devil and as a notoriously good teacher. I've read both about him, and here's first person witness on that.
Correct. Right down the line.
Yeah, and yes, both are true. But then also, in the back half of the book, she talks about her career in television, starting with Little House and other things. During the New York period of her life, she was on a soap opera, and she talks about what that early soap opera life was like, and how you were memorizing an entire script every night and going in the next day and doing it live, not even filming it and then it goes out the next day, but boom, it was on the air, and whatever you delivered was it. Yeah.
I could not deal with that level of stress.
I couldn't.
Either. I quake over just a few lines when I'm performing in, well, this has been years now, but I couldn't pull that off. That's a muscle, David Hewlett, we've talked about that with him on the show. It goes in, it goes back out, and then that's that's it. And somehow normally in the right order. So just craziness. Yeah. And go ahead.
No, just that it was like doing a new theater production every single day, and having to get the blocking right and having to get the words right, and how on earth they managed to light that, I don't know, because it does take an hour to set up the lights for every scene. So they must have just had fixed lighting and gone for it. I'd love a time machine to watch that. I really would. That would really float my boat.
We had the next best thing joining us just now. Bonnie Bartlett Daniels, Middle of the Rainbow, how wife, mother, and daughter managed to find herself and win 2 Emmys. This was released this past January. You can get it on Amazon, and it's like I told her before we got started, and based on my conversations with you, it's intense. So, and it's brave. So.
It is. It's incredibly brave. I highly recommend it to all the feminists in the audience. I really found a lot of, she may not have intended it as advice to women, but I'm taking it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got some things out of it that I'm gonna put into use in my own life as a woman. About finding your voice, and about standing up for yourself in different situations, and like I said earlier, about creatively finding that way to get your idea heard.
Whatever way to, I mean, she was clever. She saw an opportunity there, and she navigated it that way. She could have been like, well, whatever. But she saw a different end, and she was just pursuing the end result, and she did it. She got what she thought was best, and it moved forward that way. There's so much that we didn't cover. The incident on V with the murder, and starting up the very next day, with a different member with someone cast. There was a murder of one of them. You want to abbreviate this really quick?
Yeah.
People are gonna be like, what murder? What? You didn't get to that?
Yeah, Dominique Dunn was playing one of the younger characters on, and this was the original V miniseries.
The first, yeah.
Mark Singer, and I forget who else was in the cast, but this young actress was murdered by an ex-boyfriend, and one of the other actors, the young gentleman who was playing Bonnie's son on the series, was there in the house, and this murder took place, and he heard the whole thing, and then the next day they're at work, and there's a new actress already, bam, immediately cast, and they just continued on with filming as if this horrible thing hadn't happened. And that stunned me when I read it. And I get low budget productions, and if you pause in filming, maybe that kills the production, but a life had just been lost, and that just really horrified me.
It's just absolutely extraordinary. I mean, we talked about last week with James Titchener on the set of Stargate SG-1. It was his episode, Menace, that was being filmed, and September 11th happened. And Martin Wood eventually called it and shut down the set. And even in that situation, there was an instance of, some people wanted to keep working because to stop would have been akin to saying these evil people have won and they've derailed our lives. But the other side of that is, the GateCon was happening that following weekend, and Alan and some of the other team there, they talked with Eric Avari, and they were like, no, we've got that's a little different. That is a unique, specific event. And they're like, the show, we have to do this show. It's important to do it because of a host of different reasons. But yeah, I think a collective breath, in terms of production, is a good idea. What Corey Monteith died, the Glee production shut down for a few months. They had to in that situation reconfigure the season. There's a lot that goes into that, and going through Bonnie's story is just it's nearly 100 years of events and opportunities where she learned and adjusted herself and her path accordingly. It's an extraordinary piece of work. Yeah. So, and to have her on is just such a treat. So yeah,
the people she's worked with, I mean, she mentioned a few. I mean, Marilyn Monroe,
right?
Robert De Niro. I believe. Oh my God, there's just so many.
Roy Scheider in Sequest is one of my personal favorites.
Uh-huh. Yep. And it's just like every few pages, another name of someone famous comes up, and you're like, oh my God. I just randomly opened the book to see who I land on, and here's Barbara Bel Geddes, who eventually played J.R. Ewing's mother on Dallas.
That's right.
And further down,
that's my mother's generation.
Montgomery Clift.
Right. Jeez.
So, this is just an utterly fascinating book that touches on so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you can see all my Post-it notes with all my many notes to self. I very much got into this book. I get into any book. I think that's known about me, but I particularly got into this one.
Well, I appreciate you joining me to share in this time of going through the content and sharing it with her. So it means the world to have you on the team, and to get to really dive into this material with her was great. So I appreciate it.
It was a real treat for me. It really
I'm
was.
glad.
I'm
All
considering this my birthday present from you. So.
There you go. Absolutely. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Thanks, Linda. And thank you, Bonnie Bartlett Daniels, for joining us in this episode. Dial the Gate is brought to you every week for free, and we do appreciate you watching. But if you're in the mood for some kind of Stargate-related merchandise, consider buying yourself some themed swag. We've got t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, and hoodies for all ages, as well as cups and other accessories in a variety of sizes and colors at dialthegate.com/merch. Checkout is fast and easy. You can use your credit card or PayPal, and thanks so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. We've got a pretty big slate of content coming up. We've got fan-made Lego Stargate sets premiering in an hour from now. That's a pre-recorded segment with Stargate Lego fans. And then tonight at 4 o'clock Pacific time, Anna Galvin is going to be joining us to discuss her Stargate SG-1 Atlantis and Universe roles. Wednesday, February the 22nd, writer, senior story editor of Stargate SG-1, Tor Alexander Valenza, is going to be joining us to discuss his episodes. And February the 25th, next Saturday, Morris Chapdelaine and Glennis Davies will be joining us currently. And I've got a few other surprises in the works, one I'm particularly excited about. I'll be keeping you abreast of that as we move forward. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. My appreciation to Linda, my moderating team, Tracy, Jeremy, Summer, Reese, and Anthony, Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web, who keeps DialTheGate.com up and running. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the other side. That's the wrong image.